So we now go to the actual data population where we demonstrate how to submit SELA records in CalPads. There are three ways SELA records are reported to CalPads. First is through batch file upload, where you can submit multiple records at once. You may extract the file from your SIS or use the SELA batch file template to build your file and then upload it to CalPads. Batch file uploaded to CalPads must only contain a status of TBD, EO, RFEP, or ADEL. The second process is through the daily TOMS data transfer, where initial LPAC scores of EL and IFEP from completed testing are automatically sent by TOMS to CalPads on a nightly basis. Third is through online maintenance, where you can manually add SELA records one at a time. This is the slower process. However, it provides LAs the ability to report any of the ELA status codes, including EL and IFEP. Just know that CalPads may require a correction code if the record being reported does not follow the accepted SELA status progression. So let's first discuss online maintenance process. Upon logging into CalPads, you may search for the student using the SSID or the student's demographic information. To do that, you could either go to online maintenance, click on student data, enter the SSID, and click on search, or click on search by demographics if you don't have the SSID and only have some demographic information. If you have the SSID, you can just enter it here and click on search, or enter it under quick search and click on this green button to bring you to the same student detail section. At the student detail section, you should be able to see the student summary at the top, and this is based on the most recent enrollment of the student. As you can see, this student's enrollment was last year. You also have your student detail containers, and if you have all the roles assigned to your account, you should be able to see and access all of these containers. So let's just discuss student English language acquisition first. So you click on the header name of that container, and it should bring up the container window. Take note, you should be able to access this if you have your SELA view role. And if you have your SELA edit role, then you can either add a new record or open and edit an existing record that you own. So as you can see here, the student was already reported by ABC Unified as an English learner. I am logged in as CSIS Training Berkeley Unified. Currently, the student is EL, so the student was already tested last year and was determined as EL. Now, if I want to add a new record, I just click on Add New Record, and the SELA modal window will appear. We have here some fields that are required as indicated by the fields marked with an asterisk. So you have your ELA status date. So let's say I'm reporting the student as an RFEP because the student tested during summative testing and came back as an RFEP student. So let's report the student as RFEP as of today, August 20, 2019. And we put in RFEP record status here and the primary language. Notice you also see the correction reason code. This is not a required field because this field is only used when submitting a status that is out of sequence. We will discuss this in a few slides after this demo. Okay, So let's first assume that we're just reporting an RFEP record. We validate, and you should see a validation successful if all of the information you've indicated does not cause any errors or are validated and is proven to have followed the right rules in CalPADS. So let's X out of that validation message and you click on post, and the status should be posted in the student details section. Okay, we click on that. ELAS has posted successfully. X out of that, and you should be able to see the RFEP record here. So you also have the option to click open to open a record in CalPADS. If you've reported that record, you should be able to open it and delete the record. As you can see, the record was deleted. Now, you can open a record reported by some other LEA. However, you can't modify or delete that record because you don't have ownership of that record. Just X out of that. Okay, and that's how to add or delete a record in CalPADS through online maintenance. Here are some additional information on the different SELA details fields. If you look at the model, you have the general information that is reflected at the top of each of the models that you will see in CalPADS. So for SELA records, you have the general information. It would basically reflect the most recent school of attendance based on the most recent enrollment and the most recent enrollment start date. So you have here the English language acquisition status start date, which follows the different rules and conditions based on the different statuses that you may be reporting. And then, of course, you have the English language acquisition status code. As I've mentioned earlier, the codes could be EO, TBD, EL, IFEP, and RFEP. And the correction recent code, which is only available here in online maintenance and should only be used when submitting a new ELAS record to correct a prior record or status in CalPADS that has a status date of 7/1/2018 or over. And then last is the primary language, which is required for all records, and this will indicate the student's primary language based on the home language survey. So let's discuss the SELA batch file details. Okay. So the file uses transaction processing when uploading the file to CalPADS, and the records may be either added or updated, deleted, or replaced when submitting a file. Then the file format that is acceptable is comma separated value format or CSV, caret separated value format, which comes in a text file, and then XML or the updated version of the Excel spreadsheet, which is .xlsx. If you opt to submit the SELA records a faster way, you should do the batch file process instead. Just go to Upload View Submissions from the left navigation in CalPADS. Click on File, Upload. Choose the file type, which is the Student English Learner Acquisition file. You have the option to put a job name and select the file from a folder in your computer. So I click on this file here, I open it, and I click on Upload Files. And I have a file upload successful notification. You should see this when you upload your file as well. So just X out of that and the system automatically brings you to the View Submission section in CalPads. So you just click on Apply Filters or Refresh, and you should be able to see your file in queue. So there are different file statuses that you should be aware of, but for this purpose, you should have a file status of ready for review or in review status before clicking on the View button here. So the file is still in queue and being processed by the system. So let's refresh one more time. And now the file status shows ready for review. I have 3 passed records and 2 rejected records. To look at the file details, I just click on View. And the system should bring you to the View Submission Details, where you have a summary of the file, a section for to view the errors and warnings, which I think I have 3 errors, and a section where you can post the past records. So in this case, I have 3 student records that passed. I can proceed and just click on Post All to pass the file, or to just post the records that passed. Now, if I want to view the errors and warnings, I just click on View Errors and Warnings, and I should be able to see the error summary with the list of errors that the records triggered. And then if I scroll down, I should be able to see the details where I could just click on Open and bring up the errors. We will discuss these errors in the submission validation section of this course. Here's a diagram of a normal ELA status progression of a student. Knowing the acceptable status change will help you understand all the nuances of SELA reporting, as well as be able to troubleshoot any validation errors related to this progression. ELA's correction codes will not be required as long as the student's SELA progression follows the indicated path. It all starts with the home language survey form. If the filled out home language form indicates that the student speaks primarily English or American Sign Language at home, a SELA record status of EO is reported. If the home language survey form reveals a language other than English or American Sign Language, the student is reported with a TBD status and is eligible for initial LPAC testing. If a student scores high on the initial LPAC to be considered fluent, a status of IFEP is reported. Now, if the student attained a low score, he or she is then categorized as EL or English learner. Remember, these 2 statuses are based on the initial LPAC and are transmitted to CalPAS automatically by TOMS. An EL student will continue to maintain the EL status and continue to take the annual summative test until scores are high enough to be reclassified as fluent. This is the final status an initial foreign-speaking student can attain, an RFEP. A student who is either a TBD can be an EO or vice versa without needing to be reported with a correction code. Lastly, students in grades KN to 12, age 22 or older, with a primary language other than EO or American Sign Language must be reported with an ADEL record. They should not be reported with a TBD since they are not eligible for LPAC testing due to age. Also, EL students who reach the age of 22 while still currently enrolled must have their status updated from EL to ADEL. Here's a table providing a list of ELAS status change scenarios and the valid ELAS correction codes that can be used. Just remember, the correction codes are only available in online maintenance and are only applicable when the prior status being corrected has a date on or after July 1st of 2018, which is the effectivity date of the codes. Correction to any ELAS record must be done before the student takes the summative test. Now that the different methods of SELA reporting and any associated nuances have been explained, here is a summary of a non-English speaking student's SELA reporting cycle. It starts with a home language survey form indicating that the primary language at home is not equal to English or sign language, and there is no evidence of any ELAS status reported in CalPEDS. The student is then marked as TBD in the SIS. The TBD record, along with other SELA records, are then extracted from the SIS and uploaded to CalPEDS or posted through online maintenance. CalPEDS then sends the posted TBD status together with relevant student profile data to TOMS during the nightly process. The student is then tested and TOMS sends the initial LPAC ELAS status result of either EL or IFF to CalPEDS within 48 hours. Once available in CalPEDS, the LEA then requests a SELA ODS extract and uploads the results back to their SIS. The SELA status will remain in CalPEDS unless a correction is made. If the status is EL, CalPEDS will send the data to TOMS during springtime for summative testing eligibility. If a correction to ELA status is needed, the LEA must submit a new SELA record reflecting the correct ELA status code together with the appropriate valid ELAS correction code. This must be done before the summative testing of that academic year. Once the correction is made, CalPEDS then sends the relevant status back to TOMS for updating.